the latest uh, sort of attacks on both sides, on the part of the United States and on the part of Iranians. Here is, it seems that the war is somehow escalating in some senses because they're attacking more infrastructure and oil and energy facilities. Just moments ago, we've learned about the Kuwaiti. They have the power plant in Kuwait was hit by Iranian missile, and there is a footage of that. Here is the footage, and let me just play that. And you see, it's getting, the situation is getting worse. It's getting worse, unfortunately, because of the latest attacks on the part of the United States. Most of these attacks are, you know, they're using the territory of Kuwait. It's in Kuwait and in Bahrain and Jordan, and using the bases to attack Iran. And on the part of Iranians, their understanding is that if they're going to use Kuwait, all the territory of Kuwait would be the target for Iranians. So the United States today it was 3 a.m. to domestic, based on the domestic time, Iranian domestic time. It was 3 a.m. that the United States hit one of the nuclear power plants in the western part of Iran, in the state of Khuzestan, which the nuclear power plant was under construction. That wasn't a prepared, or everything was prepared there. No, it was under construction, but the United States has decided to attack and hit that. What is the main objective of that? Nobody knows, because that wasn't, functional, still functional. But they did that. The strategy, if we assume, if we seek some sort of strategy in the behavior of the United States in the Persian Gulf or close to the Strait of Hormuz, looking at what has happened so far, here is the city of Bandar Abbas. If you look at the city, at least 7 bridges were hit 2 days ago. And the main objective, you look at the importance of Bandar Abbas for the Strait of Hormuz here. And you see here the Strait of Hormuz, and the Bandar Abbas is here, which is the naval base. This city is so important for the naval base because they think that the army and the IRGC are using this city as their hub to attack or to manage the Strait of Hormuz. That was the main reason that they started with that. There were some attacks here in the southern part of Iran. Let me show you here. Just zoom out a little bit to see what's going on. Here in all of these attacks from Kuwait and from Bahrain, they were focusing on the western part of Iran. Here is the Iraq, and this province here, which is, they call it Khuzestan. It was, this province here, Khuzestan, was under attack from Kuwait and somehow from Bahrain. And they were using HIMARS. The United States has published a footage in which it shows that how they were using those HIMARS. They said the location is unknown, but the Iranian know, the assessment on the part of Iranians was that they were using the HIMARS from Kuwait to hit the targets. Basically, looking at the targets last 2 days, you see they're mostly focused in those targets in the western part of Iran. They were hit from Kuwait. No other countries would be in that position, because they know the directions of the attacks of the missiles, that they went there to hit the targets in the western part of Iran. So they assumed that it was in Kuwait. That's why you see in the last 2 days, they were targeting each and every part of Kuwait, basically mm, American weapons or American bases in Kuwait. You see, they hit the radars, weapon repair and maintenance in Kuwait. They had the fuel, that sort of that areas they're using to refuel their airplane. They hit those targets, and signal and communication centers in Kuwait were hit 2 days ago. And when it comes to Bahrain, their main focus was on the missile and drones, because they have, it seems that it seems that the United States has missile and drone depots in Bahrain. They still have those depots. So they were hit by Iranian missiles and drones. This is what's going on basically with the two sides. The main objective is to control the Strait of Hormuz. Look at all these attacks. It's all about diminishing the Iranian dominance or diminishing the Iranian power to control the Strait of Hormuz. And what is going on with the Iranians? They're basically, when it comes to Jordan, the latest attacks on Jordan, as it was so shocking for many people and in the United States, because they thought that Iran is not going to be able to recognize or to identify, to see what's going on in the bases in Jordan, or to find the American soldiers in that area. Because the main objective, to my understanding, was to hit some targets, strategic targets. Then they hit the target, and there were American troops there because they were using those facilities. Or then the United States came out saying that this sort of precision attacks it comes from the assistance that China and Russia are giving to Iran. This is the understanding on the part of the United States. On the part of Iranians, I haven't seen any report on that. But looking at the outcome of that attack, and at least 2 soldiers were killed in that attack. And there is a footage of that. Let me play that footage. One of the soldiers in the American base, he filmed the moment that the missile hits the target. Here you see the moment that the missile hits the target, and one of the soldiers inside the base is just filming. It's unbelievable what's going on. I don't know why does the United States need to escalate this. They know the capabilities of Iranian missiles. And the strategy on the part of Iranians was, when it comes to the GCC countries or the Gulf states, Arab states in the Persian Gulf, they're basically using low-range missiles or drones. But when it comes to the long-range missiles, or somehow middle, or the missiles that are of, maybe we can call them newer missiles that Iran has, because they were using the old missiles that they produced 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Whenever they don't need that sort of precision, they use those missiles. But when they need to hit some targets, like the attack on Dimona, if you remember that, they hit the targets close to the nuclear power plant in Dimona in Israel. It's not all about the intelligence, it's not all about the targets, it's about the precision of the missile. And from what I've heard, or I've read from the Iranian media, it's the new missiles have been used with the case of Jordan. So they hit the target, and you see the casualties: 2 killed, 1 of them is missing, and 14, 15 of them were sent to Germany because of the situation they were in. And looking at the map here, the map of Iran, before the war started, you look at the American bases around Iran. What was the strategy? And many people are asking, why is Iran not attacking Israel? Why is Iran not doing something, because Israel, after all, the question is, Israel started this war. Israel wanted this war. And the United States, they convinced the Trump administration that it's going to be a great victory for the United States. And Donald Trump is going to remain in the history in the history book of the United States. But here is what has happened. The Iranian strategy was so far, I don't know if you heard the latest interview of the Iranian foreign minister. He had an interview just yesterday in which he said, we were prepared for the Strait of Hormuz. It wasn't just coming. They were, when Israel attacked Iran on June 2025, they were thinking that the United States is preparing for that. In the latest days of the war, the United States interfered. They attacked the Fordo and the Fordo nuclear power plant. and they said, "So this is the end. We're out, and no, we have the ceasefire." Then Donald Trump announced the ceasefire, and the perception and the understanding on the part of Iranians was that the United States is going to get back. And what would be those targets of the United States? What are they going to do? And their understanding was the assassination. Since the way the United States, Israel attacked Iran, you remember it with the assassinations, and they assassinated, many commanders, high-rank commanders in Iran in June 2025. Then the understanding was somehow Iran was getting to the point to understand what would be the strategy on the part of the United States. You remember after that we had the protests, riots, and the economic pressure on Iranian people. And so they prepared everything. Then you see the United States attacking Iran again. What was said, the Iranian foreign minister said that we knew that. We knew that if they attack us, they're going to attack with these assassinations. So what would be the response to that? He said, if they're going to attack the supreme leader of Iran, the first moment that they try to assassinate the supreme leader of Iran, we're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. That was the red line in their mind. We didn't know about it. We were talking about what would be the next target assassination, but the assumptions on the part of the Iranian government and those decision makers, they said this is the red line. If they try to assassinate or they assassinate the supreme leader of Iran, we're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. That would be the end of the free passages of tankers and vessels in the strait. So this is the first part. The second part was that what would be the main agenda on their part? He said, the Iranian foreign minister said that the Iranian supreme leader told him once that if we can negotiate, the war is dangerous and we have to avoid war. But if we reach to the point that the war is, the negotiation would be more costly than going to war, we're going to go to war because there would be no other option for us. So this was the understanding on the part of Iranians. And coming back to the American bases here, let me show you here. And the war started, look at it all around Iran. And the big question again, why is Iran not attacking Israel? So what is the priority for Iran right now? It seems that with the way that they're behaving, they're attacking, you see the targets, and they're mostly focused, since the war started, they were mostly focused on the American bases in the Persian Gulf and around Iran. And the war right now is getting to Jordan. As you see, there are 2 Israeli American bases in Jordan as well. And when the war started, you see all these airplane and fighter jets were removed, basically most of them were removed from the region around Iran, and they put them in Jordan and in Israel. One of the main problems that Israelis were in the last 3 days they were talking about. So what can we do with these American fighter jets and refueling tankers, because they're occupying, in Israel is a little country. They don't have that much of, capabilities to host these airplane and these fighter jets. So the option was in Jordan. They were using 2 huge bases in Jordan. And right now with the new attacks and the precision of the new missiles that Iran is using, we don't know what type of missiles they have used. There was nothing of that sort. Nothing was mentioned in the Persian media or in the alternative media. I couldn't find any. I couldn't find any information on that. But they were able to hit the targets the way that Donald Trump somehow is backing down. In the last 3 days, they were de-escalating the attacks, or they were reducing the attacks on Iran. Last night, it was basically nothing. After announcing that Iran has hit Jordan, and many people thought that the United States is going to go big last night on Iran, they're going to hit many targets. That didn't happen. it was the weakest night considering the American attacks on Iran. So it seems to me that they're getting to the point to understand that if you attack, if you try to isolate the city of Bandar Abbas, for example, which was one of the main objectives, if you're not able to do that, because whoever knows the geography of the region understands that it doesn't matter if you destroy all of these bridges. You cannot isolate the city by just simply hitting the bridges. It's impossible. The geography doesn't let you, you know. It's a, that's why I think the United States doesn't know they're running out of targets. The problem right now is that the United States is running out of targets. They don't know the location or the location of these underground cities, or that they keep all these drones and missiles, and even most of the air defense system of Iran is underground. They're coming up and hitting the targets, they're going underground. It's not going to be a fixed location that they're going to get there and hit the target and destroy everything. As they, that's why you see Pete Hegseth sharing that photo of the tower, the maritime, the tower, the maritime traffic tower in the southern part of Iran, which was hit. They multiple times they hit that tower, and finally they destroy it. So there is no, they don't know what they're doing to get the targets of the United States in Iran. They're trying to do something strategically, it's failing over and over. That's why you see their attack on some facilities in Khuzestan, in the western part of Iran. Nothing is happening, in my point of view, strategically in Iran. But what Iran is doing is somehow reaching to Jordan. And the latest attack, they attacked Syria, and as you see here, there is a base in Syria that the United States was using before. There were some reports on the part of Iranians that they may hit special forces in that base. Later on, we've learned maybe the United States has removed the forces and nobody was there. Some facilities, some weapons, maybe. We don't know. We don't have any information, no report on that. But Jordan is so important. Jordan is so close to Israel, and there's somehow the connection between the two is perfect, between Israel and Jordan. And the only way that the United States can keep these F-35, yesterday they said that F-16s and F-35s from Europe, from Germany and United Kingdom are heading toward the Middle East. The United States was bringing all these fighter jets to escalate the attacks on Iran. And where are they going to put these planes and these fighter jets? What would be that location? Is that going to be in Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman? None of them is safe for these fighter jets and refueling tankers. So are they going to put them in Jordan and in Israel? It seems that Jordan is getting, as time goes by, as Iran is using more missiles against Jordan, it shows that the United States has its fears about putting these planes in these fighter jets and fueling tankers in Jordan. So what would be the other option? Would be Israel. So how is that going to escalate or somehow make the situation more difficult for the United States? I think the case is getting so, the two sides are pushing so hard that if they continue, there would be a huge escalation. Israel just moments ago, they said that there are three scenarios under which they're going to join the fight. One of them is if Iran attacks Israel. The second, if they feel that Iran is going to attack them, or maybe preemptively going to attack Iran. And the third option would be if the United States, if Donald Trump asks them to join the fight. This is the options on the part of Israel. My understanding is that the United States doesn't want Israel, or Donald Trump doesn't want Israel. Let's put it this way, because there is no meaning of using the United States, because everything is about Donald Trump and he's dominating everything, and he's running. Basically, he he's deciding about everything, not only in the United States, but only in the GCC countries. You see how GCC countries were somehow unhappy about the situation with this rate, but they were cooperating with the United States on the other hand. So the problem right now for Donald Trump is physical. He has to put these fighter jets and refueling tankers somewhere. Where that would be? Is it going to be in Jordan? Iran going to hit them. And these fighter jets cannot fly over and over because they have to they have some sort of maintenance, and they have this time period. They have 50 minutes of fighting and getting back. I don't know, 12 hours of maintenance, something like that. The operation is huge, the way that is happening. So they need somewhere to put these fighter jets there when it comes to the maintenance and refueling tankers as well, because they need a lot of these refueling tankers. At least 14 of them were recently in the Persian Gulf trying to refuel the fighter jets. Every time they go to the Persian Gulf and get back 2 times, they have to be refueled at least. And this is the problem physically for Donald Trump. How so? All he said that Iran has 99% of Iranian missiles were destroyed. They don't have air defense system. They don't have navy. They don't have, they don't have the fighter jets or air power. Nothing is there. And you see, finally, Iran is hitting some targets in Jordan. The problem for Donald Trump is that he has to put these pictures together. He has to sell it to those people who are supporting him. If they were destroyed everything, how is Iran able to hit Jordan the way it hit? How is that possible? He has to respond. And unfortunately, I repeat, unfortunately, the case of the war is it's turning to be something normal in Iran. And this is the moment that you see the whole society is not afraid of war anymore. And they're preparing for a long war. And the way that you see in Russia, the war in Russia started and they thought that it's going to be 6 months, it's going to be less than that. No, it's going to be 7. And you see, right now we are in a war of attrition between Russia and NATO. We are approaching 5 years of war. And it's going to be the same with the case of Iran, it seems to me. I don't know if the United States is going to use ground operation. If that happens, it's going to be a catastrophe for each and everybody. And the people, nobody would benefit from that. And if they try to do something, the Iranian understanding is if they try to do something in the western part of Iran with this Kurdish group, and they know how to respond, they know how to manage that with 10,000, 12,000, 20,000. These are not big numbers for Iran to manage that. But with the case of the United States, somehow different. If they come, they would use the western part of Iran, the border with Iraq, because there are a lot of activities in Iraq. We don't hear from Iraq because of you have the acts of resistance in Iraq, fighting them, and they're fighting each other in Iraq, but we don't hear that much of news about it. But the United States is there. They can do something with the Iranian border, with Iraq, or in the Persian Gulf. But they have to come into the Persian Gulf. They have to open up the Strait of Hormuz before invading Iran. Is that going to happen? Today, we've learned at least 4 tankers were used to, again, penetrate the Iranian control over the Strait of Hormuz. But 2 of them were hit by Iranian missiles or maybe drones. 2 of them were hit and 2 of them were forced to get back.